Hi guys, welcome back. Welcome to yet another episode of the ProfileTree podcast. So we've been doing this for a few weeks now, and we were thinking it might be a good opportunity for us to kind of just check in and reintroduce ProfileTree, I suppose, as an agency, as a business, what it is that we do and what we try to help businesses achieve, both sort of locally in Northern Ireland and further afield. Chris, do you want to take point and talk through everything that ProfileTree does and what we're kind of trying to achieve?
I'll try my best. So we are ProfileTree. We're based here in Belfast in Northern Ireland, but we also work further afield as well, internationally and across the region. So we have been in this space for the guts of 10 to 15 years. And the company was started in 2011 by Kieran Conley, the man himself, a genius when it comes to SEO and growing businesses online. Partnered with his wife Michelle. They've been running the company in this online space for many years. So what we do is we deliver services that help businesses with their online presence, as well as delivering mentoring for businesses as well that want to bring those services in-house and do that within their own teams, their marketing teams, and so on. So there's mainly three areas, would you say? There's video production, which I currently lead at the moment. We'd be working across every industry you can think of, and it's super exciting. And then we have training or mentoring, and that's where we deliver programs on behalf of councils and other organizations to help businesses improve their digital skills. And of course, web development and SEO, and that's sort of Porrick's space as well. So Laura's the program manager; she runs the mentoring, and then Porrick is our client success manager who delivers all those websites and SEO and other digital services.
So Porrick, I suppose, as head of client success and client services, what would you say is really common in terms of the kind of businesses and the kind of clients we're working with? I suppose especially in the local space of NI.
Uh, Kind of would be a huge range. We'd have everything from like a sole trader starting up a new business, existing kind of small, medium businesses like local charities, to like large international companies. So it's like a good kind of mix of everything underneath the commercial umbrella. On this side, I know training would obviously focus kind of on more small, medium sized businesses.
One of the things I would see a lot, especially with our training programs, we work with so many smaller businesses or relatively new businesses in the space. And one of the things that is often the case is that they either have no online presence whatsoever, or it's one of those things that it was like, oh, I kind of have to do this, where they might have set up a Facebook page 3 years ago because they were be told to do it or it was just the done thing. So I suppose what I kind of want to talk about today was where to start. I can imagine as a business owner or an entrepreneur or someone that's starting up something new, it can be really, really overwhelming. So I thought maybe today we could break down the process somewhat for clients. It's easy to just jump in and be like, okay, well, I need a website, I need social media channels, I need to pay money on ads. But I think even before that, we kind of need to take it back to strategy. It's a word that we love a lot. Obviously, we have a team of digital strategists. We're always thinking in terms of strategy. I suppose it's a fancy word for plan. The key thing is to start before you start anything, define your target audience. I suppose the simpler way of saying that is who are you trying to sell to, whether it be products, services, whatever it is. In order for you to actually properly market and sell to those people, you need to know who they are. And I think it can, again, with everything else, it can be really overwhelming. And it's like some people might already have an idea of who they want to sell to, but others might not know where to start, especially if you're in potentially quite a saturated market, like retail or hospitality or something like that. But there are things out there that can help you to define your target audience. I was looking online, even things as simple as using a tool like SurveyMonkey to potentially send out, a list of specific questions to, say, family and friends, trying to figure out what their buying habits might be and what would appeal to them, just so you can try and find your niche within the market. I think when it comes to bigger businesses, they might have the money or the sort of capacity there to do some further research, like competitor analysis or things like that. But I think today we'll probably focus a lot on things that are maybe readily available to your sole traders or smaller businesses. Even free tools like Google Trends, to basically look at what people are searching for. I think the key thing is free tools, because we're always so aware that businesses won't necessarily have the sort of finance available to invest in full digital marketing strategies or things like that. Another thing I was going to talk about was USP. So from your perspective, Chris, how important do you think that is? Especially working with your own clients, trying to sell something.
Totally. I think the USP is directly correlated with the target audience. You need to find your USP value proposition first. As you said, there's so many free tools out there. Even AI, like generative search, is good for targeting a start, into finding your target audience, into developing your USP, whatever that may be.
I think with USP too, some people are like, well, I sell insurance. How do I figure out a USP? But people are thinking about it maybe too kind of laterally. It's like, well, yes, insurance as an idea isn't unique. Everyone needs insurance. It's there because it's there.
So that's the
But
start. And then you go
exactly,
off of that.
yeah. But people definitely need to think about, well, okay, is it your approach to customer service? Or is it, how sustainable you are as a business? Or is it the manner in which you deliver your services? Like all of these things are so important. And it's honing in on what one, and it might not be that you have one USP, you might have 20. But it's kind of defining what defines you, I suppose, if that makes sense.
I think how that's relevant to the conversation we're having about getting a start online is that is the start, because that is what you're going to be selling in your brand. That's what you're going to be pushing out to the audience. So once you have that, then you narrow down your target audience. What comes next?
Those two things are key if you think of it from like our perspective as like a digital marketing agency, what you're trying to sell and who you're trying to sell it to. So I think maybe if you think back like 10 years ago, there might be certain businesses or certain areas that you would have said online might not be the right kind of medium or channel for people. But nowadays everyone is online, like everyone, even their granny, has a tablet. So, it's not a case of, I'm targeting like an older audience that I'm going to stick to kind of offline stuff. So,
Yeah.
kind of narrowing it down that way, is it target audience that's younger that you need to focus on kind of like socials, like TikTok or that, or an older audience that you need to go down kind of the route of Facebook or something like that. So I think within every kind of medium, there is certain channels and certain demographics. Probably best to try and target one. I think one of the worst strategies you can do is I want to sell to everyone, because you usually end up selling to no one. So while you can kind of, filter out among kind of like a wider audience, I think it is better to have that kind of specific, almost like a customer profile. So a lot of companies or a lot of marketing teams will create like a persona. So their ideal kind of client, or who they think would be their normal clients, it's Claire, she's 43, she works in a HR office in Dublin, or, it's Mark, he's 25, he's a plumber in Belfast. And, they kind of build out these really big profiles about like, how do they use their phone, what social media platforms do they use, how do they consume media, all things like that. So that can really help, I think, new businesses or any business in kind of build a marketing strategy to create that persona and kind of look at how they consume media and kind of anything online, really.
A big question often is the socially simplistic, but do I need a website?
I think everyone does, because it's keeping me in the job. So, but I would think, again, with kind of like if you're breaking up platforms and channels, that does everyone need a Facebook page? Maybe, maybe not. Does everyone need a TikTok page? Maybe, maybe not. I think with something like a website, it has become like a basic standard thing. It's like, does every like home need broadband, or does everybody need a mobile phone? Pretty much everybody like these days needs a website. It is effectively like your shopfront online. So whether you are an online business or not, you might not be selling stuff online, but that presence is there. If you take, for instance, your like a builder or contractor, or, just a shop, having somebody online, or having something online that you can, people can Google, like if somebody's looking for somebody to install something in their home, like a boiler or anything like that, the first thing they're probably going to do is Google your name, see have you good reviews, bad reviews, and if you're not coming up online, you effectively don't exist. That can be a red flag for a lot of people nowadays, that there's kind of no trace. Whereas like if somebody Googles your name, that you run like a local shop, they're thinking of buying something off you, that they see, you've got 100 positive reviews on Google My Business, that sets you apart from a competitor who doesn't have any online presence at all. So effectively, what we would say, when you're building out your website, that your homepage is like your new shop front. So it's like when somebody comes onto your website, they have a quick look, what do you sell, what services you offer. It's the same as somebody walking down the street, walking past your shop window, and they kind of have a quick glance in and they see something nice in the window, and then they go into the shop. And then the rest of your website kind of functions like the inside of a shop. You kind of explore a little, you pick out some things, you might talk or make an inquiry, and it effectively almost is like having an online shop.
It's it's the turning point of where someone decides, that's a bit sus, they don't have a website. And they go, it's funny, like 2 weeks ago, I was on Uber Eats. I just came back from holiday. I was on Uber Eats, yes, guilty, indulging in some takeaway food, and I was looking for somewhere new to get from. And my partner, she said that this place looks really nice, and I was like, okay, what's the name of it? And I googled it, because obviously it's on Uber Eats. I want to Google it and see a few Google pics, and look at the images and all the rest of it, and there was no trace of it, so it didn't have a Google profile. And I instantly went, no, we'll go somewhere else. So that's kind of the difference in getting a customer or not.
You may have a business like that, like a takeaway or a restaurant, and they might not see, I'm not really getting anybody coming through my website. Nobody's placing orders for food on my website. Like, why do I need one? But you kind of don't realize the secondary effects like that. So, that business, if they did have an online presence and you looked and you saw, oh, they have good reviews, they have a website, it looks, legitimate, I can see pictures of nice food, you would have ordered through them, but they would have never been aware that's what made you spend, 50 or £100 that night. Sometimes businesses don't see the full value of their website. Like it helps, legitimize them almost. And that can bring revenue and customers through kind of different streams.
Often as a consumer, I'll search a business and I'll literally go on their website and I'll jump off it again. But the purpose is almost like you said, legitimizing it, making sure that it exists and that it's there. And I think that probably leads on to a next obvious point. SEO, it's something clients can often get frustrated with and sort of miss the point of. But we would see a lot of clients come in and, you might literally Google their business name and nothing comes up, but it turns out that they actually have a website, a Facebook, and Instagram, and a LinkedIn page, but they're not ranking even for their own name. That's a really, it's a really big red flag, and it sort of detracts from the purpose of having those channels. So it's not just about building a website, filling it full of content. It's about maintenance and making sure that you're going back and remembering that the content your website is potentially more for the search engine than it is for the end user. Because at the end of the day, without that content, without the optimized content and keywords and everything, no one's going to find your website, and then it's effectively moot. And that's a huge problem that we're seeing, is that people don't understand it's not an uphill battle, but it's something that needs to be maintained the exact same way that you need to clean your house or put diesel in your car. Like it's a regular occurrence.
And to use the analogy of the shop front, you wouldn't just keep all your products on the shelves until they're empty. You would
Yeah.
keep on maintaining the shop. So, and it's funny with video as well. I kind of have this battle sometimes in my head where I'm like, you want to be as authentic and unique as to your business as possible, and that's the kind of content we want to create. But then the flip side of that is exactly what you're explaining, to prioritize search intent. So making sure that your traffic is going to you rather than your competitors, and that's essentially to maximize SEO with blogs and video content, stuff that people are actually wanting to find information out about.
Just while we're talking about SEO, I suppose one of the key things that we're seeing, well, on the kind of commercial side with clients, with AI is, it will kind of help for anyone working on content at the moment. that informational content on websites is kind of almost starting to be phased out, because the likes of AI, like Google's AI or ChatGPT, can pull the answers so easily. So, if you think of 5 years ago, you typed into Google, what's the capital of France, you would have, got like a Atlas or Wikipedia link there and jumped on and like seen it. Whereas now it will pull out the answer and put it in front of you in the search result page. So nobody is going to go on, and traffic won't be directed as much, I suppose, towards informational sites. So that kind of have information. So what we see the focus on now for SEO is to write service-based content, because that's still been directed onto the websites themselves to help boost SEO and boost traffic. So you kind of, for existing content that's there, you're almost trying to rephrase it, that you're offering like a service or, a product if you are selling a product, and move away from that kind of static informational content.
But I suppose what that does there is people are becoming more reliant on one single source of information. So if that source of information is wrong, then it's going to have a huge knock-on effect. And especially when we do live in an age of misinformation and cross wires and people not understanding things, while it can be great for the convenience, if it's wrong and it's something a little bit more important, it obviously can cause issues. But it's really interesting to see like how dynamic and fast moving the updates are. So I suppose we've answered the question of should you get a website pretty definitively. Porrick says absolutely yes. You should not have one. Chris agrees. Um, so I suppose then the next stage would be looking at social media channels. Maybe an easier question to answer in terms of it really is a good idea for pretty much every business, but probably the most common pitfall is businesses, and again, this takes us back to defining your target audience. Businesses often think they need to be everywhere, and in not having those specifically targeted funnels, you're not getting heard. You're just getting lost potentially in the noise of your competitors. So I suppose a good general rule of thumb in terms of deciding which social media channels might be relevant for you is typically business to consumer platforms would be the likes of Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Um, Business to business would be generally LinkedIn, a little bit X as well. And then your slightly more visual industries, obviously, they really work on platforms like Pinterest and YouTube. Um, I think from looking at the statistics, and this is to, I suppose, answer your question that we often get asked is my business doesn't really need to be on social media is well, as of I think the last study that was done in 2023, there's almost 5 billion people in the world using social media, which is around 60% of the world's population. So if ever you're in a position where a business owner is trying to say, well, my demographic or my customers aren't on social media, it's important to hit them with these facts that are just indisputable. And I think Ofcom did a study last year in specifically in Northern Ireland, and consumers were using their phone for around 4.5 hours a day, of which at least an hour and a half was spent on social media. So absolutely, the customers are there for the taking. It's you need to be present, you need to be engaging, and you need to be, reaching them.
That's crazy, those stats. If someone is on their phone for an hour and a half on, say, Facebook, for example, or Instagram, your 20-second or 30-second video, think of many of them they're watching in an hour and a half. That's a crazy amount of content you're watching and a crazy amount of content you're consuming. Even if you're on for an hour, think of many 30-second videos. You're getting 120, really.
Definitely. And I think I and we as an entire company cannot stress this enough. If you're going to use social media marketing as a tool to promote your products or services, consistency is key. It's so common where people might start off with the best intentions and they'll plan some posts for a week and then it'll maybe drop off because the day-to-day run of the business becomes more important. And I can, you can understand both sides where you're like, well, obviously if there's a customer standing in front of you, that customer is very important. You need to deal with that. But also if you're not marketing your business, then you're setting yourself up for a potential reduction in sales or customers further down the line. So I think people again get overwhelmed by the planning of content, but again, there's so many tools out there to help you. There's so many, especially, since the massive rise in AI, there's so many free tools or AI tools there to help you, whether it be actually write captions or plan your content, come up with strategies, things like that. Use them, especially if you're trying to schedule content ahead of time. Use Meta Business Suite, use Buffer, Hootsuite, anything that's available. Sit down for, half a day every week or 2 weeks and plan your content. Because if it's not there, people are much less likely to actually engage with you. And I think it's much the same as like jumping on a website that maybe hasn't been updated in 12 years. It's like, well, is this business legitimate? Do they care about communicating their products and services or connecting with their customers? I think it's definitely massive. But there can also be the other end of the scale, can't there, where you just want them to shut up. I think some businesses are a little bit overactive, and I actually saw a stat that said over half of customers report that they would unfollow a brand if it becomes irritating on social media.
Yeah, I think we've all probably done it. There's definitely a right amount you should not you're not trying to sell. Sometimes videos are just for entertainment or just for the crack and or to show like sort of like your personalities behind the business. But yeah, sometimes when it's too in your face, too selly, then um I'm gonna I'm gonna unfollow it, like, definitely.
Yeah, I think balance is key. But as well as that, obviously, when we're talking about planning content in advance, not everything can be done in advance. You also have to react to, emerging news stories or trends. Like if you look at the amount of businesses nowadays that are taking advantage of like memes or viral stories, like the Ibiza Final Boss recently or the Coldplay affair. Like I think we can all agree that we got some of the most brilliant content out of those two news stories alone. So it is really important to kind of monitor what's happening. And if it works for your brand, jump on it, make a little joke or use it as an opportunity to tell people about who you are and what you do. Cause I think those have the most lasting effect on customers.
All those scheduling tools anyway, like the best thing would be to sit down, plan your content, and you have a post going twice a week or something. But like that something happens and you have an idea, you can jump on it, you can cancel that scheduled post and put in something more relevant. So it's almost like a safety net, scheduling posts like that you have, you're kind of guaranteed I'll have something out twice a week, kind of regular posting. But then you can always, if you have the time or something kind of comes up or there's something happens that you have a good idea, you can always jump in the middle of that. Like they are easy tools to use once you have a little bit of training on them.
Another thing I wanted to talk about, and I mean, our glorious founder, Kieran Conley, is probably the number one fan of this, is Google Business Profiles or Google My Business or whatever it currently is called, because it does change regularly. A surprisingly high number of businesses that we would work with or sort of be exposed to do not have this set up.
I think again, it's kind of there with the website, like it legitimizes businesses. I find it strange. Like, we could have a new prospective client coming in looking, to update their existing website. They could be a large company, that's been around for 20, 50 years, and they don't have a Google My Business page. It's almost strange when you do Google somebody or, try and search them or even on Google Maps that nothing comes up. Again, it's one of those things that it makes you like slightly hesitant, I think.
Yeah, and it's even basic information, isn't it? It's, are you open? I think it can be really frustrating for clients and exactly that. If it comes down to a scenario where you're trying to decide between things, like for me, it's often hospitality. So you were talking, Chris, about deciding on a takeaway or you and your friends want to book a restaurant for dinner. If you can't see a Google business profile, obviously number one, you don't know where they are, you don't know when they're open, but also you're not able to see reviews. And this is so important. I'm sure again our clients maybe get a bit tired of hearing it. But the importance of reviews like cannot be overstated. And even if it comes down to it, for example, you have two businesses on Google business profile, you're thinking, where am I going to go for dinner? Where am I going to spend a little bit extra money this weekend as a treat? You're probably gonna pick the one with more reviews or that has a slightly better rating based on how many they have. So it's trying to explain the absolute, like, vitalness of that to clients, that it's not just as simple as it looks good. It is literally down to a customer's done at a till, they're gonna pick business A or business B, and whoever has the better profile is effectively gonna win.
Good, yeah, totally. Even if you visualize that, there's two counters in front of you. One says 250 5-star reviews, and the other one says 40 4-star reviews.
Mhm.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
100%. And it's funny you talk about the Google business profile, because after, like, later in the conversation, I kind of want to veer towards content creation and how to like max out on getting a head start with your online presence. But the second place I would advise people or business owners, marketing teams, the second place you should post your video. So after the website, which is always first, and you can embed that through YouTube or whatever. So upload your video to YouTube and embed to your website. Number one. Number two is make sure that video, those photos get posted on your Google business profile. Kieran is obsessed with getting content up there, and if he thinks that it's good, it absolutely is making a difference in the business world. So yeah, definitely it's super important not to be looked over.
Yeah, I have a stat to back up your statement, Chris, if you'd like to hear it.
Hit me.
So Google business profile listings with over 100 images receive what I don't even know this is a percentage, 1,065% more clicks than those with fewer images. So yeah, there is an actual definitive measurable impact to that. I think especially when it's a visual business where it might be retail or hospitality or anything like that. So definitely get all of your photos up. Take random photos of the inside of your business, your office, your computer. If you're maybe your job is as a virtual assistant. I think that's the thing. Often people think, well, my business isn't very sexy or it's not very visual. How can I create content? Anything can be content as long as you package it correctly. So you're absolutely right. I wanted to talk quickly as well about ads. And again, just to go back to what we would typically see with businesses is people are quite quick to jump to spend money on ads. And I think this is because they assume it's a quick win or, I don't need to invest loads of time in this. I'll just spend money on it. We maybe would have seen quite a sort of strong conversion from ads a few years ago, and the cost as well per lead or per conversion was considerably lower. But what we have been talking a lot to our clients about over the past few years is absolutely ads are an excellent tool if you have the capital available to spend on it. If you have a team there or a team member that has the knowledge and skills to be able to set up, monitor a campaign and sort of optimize it based on how it's performing. Otherwise, do not touch them. Focus on organic content. And just like you were saying, Chris, video is absolutely key. Something that you could quickly shoot on your phone for free, and use, an editing tool like potentially CapCut to edit for free. And yes, it does take a little bit of time, but it's so much more worth it in the long run. I think we as consumers can really see that as well, can't we? Where it's not an ad that's sort of shoved in your face, maybe against your will, but it's content that's popped up because it might be relevant to you, and I think it's much nicer and it's more personable almost.
Yeah, definitely. For social media, especially, businesses that don't know where to start, I would just, if you're looking at what to do, start with telling people who you are. So, like, for talk's sake, a family run bakery can create a short video introducing their bakers, their history, and why they started the shop. So instead of just selling bread, they explore their roots and passion for their traditional methods of baking. So people buy into that. People buy into people. You're definitely going to be competing with the bigger businesses that can afford 10 grand, 15 grand ads, for 30 seconds for you to put together something on CapCut. It can be a lot more beneficial for you as a small business when you're trying to compete with bigger companies. Focusing on niche topics. So don't try, as Pork said before, to cover everything, because the big businesses, the big, huge corporates are probably already targeting nearly everything. Like, if you go on to Google right now and look for a product, Amazon's bound to pop up somewhere along the line. Um, Whereas if you go into specific areas, focus on very niche topics within your business. So like if it was um, a small business like a bike repair shop, your blog posts and videos should be how to fix common issues for commuter bikes. So next minute, instead of you recycle or generating cycling content, it's more focused for city cyclists, maybe. And then you're competing with that niche area for the bigger global cycling brands. So with that being content creation around video, what do you think the main elements are for a website then, Pork? Because you obviously partner both of them. I'd be creating videos for blog posts and so on for social media channels and repurposing that. What do you think the main elements are for a website?
So I suppose for somebody in this sense, like starting out online, just kind of getting going, the major kind of questions you'd want to ask from your website or kind of requirements have in it is who we are, what we do, and then why you choose us will be kind of three key points to kind of keep in mind when you're doing like layout or what content to include. Same for video, any kind of reassurance like that. That would be the general kind of key overviews for a website, especially if you're starting off with like something small scale for the likes of a new business.
Laura, what do you think someone should do then if they're getting into these steps of, taking the leap to go online with their business and they're maybe a little bit, you know, not weary of it, but they're scared because it's not like their normal field?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm probably gonna unexpectedly as program manager and overseer of our training team, upskill yourself no matter what. I think you don't need to sit a master's in digital marketing, but try to make yourself as aware and of things as possible and develop your knowledge to at least to an extent where you have a basic understanding. I think if you don't have a marketing manager or team behind you, you need to upskill yourself to the point where you can manage all your marketing yourself. I mean, there's so much in terms of free resources out there, whether it be listening to podcasts like YouTube tutorials or free online courses through things like the Digital Marketing Institute or Coursera, funded business support programs through like local government bodies. Um, Obviously, to toot our own horn at PT, like we genuinely believe in the importance of actually equipping our clients with the tools that they need to be able to build a successful business online. We don't want people to just come in and be like, "Here, do this for us." We want them to understand. The last thing you want to do is think, "Okay, well, I want to develop a website," and you don't even know where to start, what you want, what you need. Give yourself that knowledge base at least foundationally. So yeah, I think that's massively important. So that's us for another week, guys. It's been great to really get into what's needed. Hopefully, we have helped a few businesses in terms of direction and what they need to consider before developing, any kind of online presence, whether it's setting it up or improving it. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.